In order to create effective social change like the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement, effective leadership and the use of various forms of protest are needed.
I'm gonna make a change for once in my
These two compelling, determined, and influential individuals have changed the mindset of many people using their leadership and persistent qualities.
gonna make it right. As I
On August 27, 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. helped lead the Great March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. King delivered his I Have a Dream speech to over 200,000 participants,
in the street,
which was carried live by TV stations and was considered the most impressive movement of the march.
not to see.
Martin Luther King Jr. used his leadership qualities to pursue effective social change during the Civil Rights era. His I Have a Dream speech changed the perspective in many lives of the people during this time. In December of 1955, when Montgomery's black leaders formed the Montgomery Improvement Association to protest the arrest of NAACP official Rosa Parks for refusing to give up her bus seat to a white man, they selected King to lead the new group.
In the mirror,
In his role as a spokesman of the year-long Montgomery bus boycott, King used the leadership abilities he had gained from his religious background and academic training to propose a protest strategy that involved the mobilization of black churches and skillful appeals for white support. King's involvement in the Montgomery bus boycott led to the historical Supreme Court decision outlawing Alabama bus segregation.
been a victim of a selfish kind of love.
Once King took control of the Alabama Christian movement for human rights to protest conditions in Birmingham, he treated it as a major campaign. The campaign included lunch counter sit-ins, protesters marching on City Hall, and demonstrations.
A willow deep blue sky, somebody's broken heart.
After King led a march on Good Friday, April 12th, and was arrested along with many others, he composed a letter from a Birmingham jail.
When you sleep, 'cause the guy
Once King was released from jail, the protests acquired a larger scale and a more confrontational character. Eventually, the protests became so massive and volatile, the city was willing to negotiate. Because of King's bravery and hardworking leadership, the city set a schedule for desegregation of lunch counters and other facilities, and promised to confront the issue of inequality in hiring practices, to grant amnesty to arrested demonstrators, and to create a biracial committee for the reconciliation of differences. Without Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership and skillful protesting in the March on Washington, the Montgomery bus boycott, the Birmingham protest, and many other events that helped change the lives of all African Americans, the journey to becoming equal and free would have been much longer and much more difficult. In 1913, Alice Paul and Lucy Burns founded the National Woman's Party. The NWP fought for women's rights, especially on the right to vote on the same terms as men. Paul and many other members of the National Woman's Party started picketing at the White House, which was known as the Silent Sentinels. After the United States declared war in 1917, the women still continued protesting outside the White House. The women were arrested for obstructing traffic. When Alice Paul was arrested, she went on a hunger strike protesting the conditions of Oakland prison. She was then put in a prison psychiatric ward where she was force-fed. Paul's hunger strike, combined with the continuous demonstrations and attendant press coverage, kept pressure on the Wilson administration. In January of 1918, Wilson announced that women's suffrage was urgently needed as a war measure and strongly urged Congress to pass the legislation. It was Alice Paul's persistent protesting and compelling leadership which helped the 19th Amendment of the United States Constitution secure the vote for women and which led to women's equality.